project I'd like to explain could be named after the gardeners of the metropolis, or the short project in a laboratory of projects in Girona, hometown. It's actually a project of what the city has disregarded. So you can see here a map of the city, and actually the project, it's about all the areas which are not acknowledged or represented in the map. The shore, it's a laboratory of projects, an initiative for the littoral between the city and the territory. It's focused on this strip of land that we want to recover, complicities between nature and citizens. The very concept of the shore, that would maybe be best translated into English as the edge, counteracts the usual epicentric nature of urban public space, which is focused towards the center of the city, and puts attention toward the margin of the city to bring it closer to those neighborhoods that they are in the perimeter, from the outside to the inside. The goals of the shore project are relatively common. So it's to say that we want to implement a green infrastructure that will be in the form of a ring park system at the town's edge. Philosophy of this is that it's totally distributed and equitable around all the city. And doing that, what we would like to do is to reimagine the city as an open conurbation, integrating the nature of the urban edge as a strategic asset. So nature is strategic, and we want to have it all around the city. What is less uncommon, it's not the purpose, but is the way we approach the project. First, it started with a self-commissioned research question. The question it was, can we design with landscape management? And can we do this design at a city scale? So we were focusing on the work of Gilles Clement and the Garden in Motion, but we wanted to apply that to the city scale. So the subsequent research question would be, what if we turn placekeeping, so maintenance to keep, into placemaking? And that would be evolutionary management. And we do that as a long-term design tool. In order to do so, what if we invert the project sequence and we start from pilot projects and then we move towards master planning? We started at the edge of a town, and it's not always like in those images, but it's a very neglected where people drop rubbish. Every year, 24 tons of rubbish were thrown out. Things were neglected, forest fires, wildfires. And it was a place which was no nature and no city. It was really the backyard. So how it all started was that I was doing my research for a PhD, and I offered my services to the municipality for 1 year doing evolutive management plans for free, under the condition that the city, municipality, would invest some time of their employees to put it into place. That would be that the municipality itself had no cost in this operation. And we get started, and we call it a bit like the Trinity, who are the thinkers and the makers of this project. On one side, the landscape architects, ourselves, then the technical service within the municipality, who coordinate the whole thing and make it happen and make all the procedures. And then a very important part, it's the brigade. So it's the people who work on staff, those in the image. And that brings actually a very unusual way of approaching a project, because we know about the top-down projects where clients, administration make a competition and say what to do under a great call. We also know about the grassroots projects where people being active try to engage the society and the municipality in doing something. But this is a bit strange because it's somewhere in between. It's in a technical level, it's professional level, it's between technical people within the administration. And what we are trying to do is mobilizing knowledge, changing knowledge. So it is not a project as most of the projects of landscape and architecture about changing the hardware, the space. It's more about changing the knowledge of the people working on that space. So this project, it's really a knowledge question. What we had there was a shore of Girona. There were neglected spaces, but there was all this beauty that was already existing, and we had to be found. And here I'm showing some of the variety of flora. And also quite a lot of social opportunities where kids and people could sport and discover places, but it had to be found. It had to be shown. It had to be connected. How we practice about that from the landscape point of view. We spend a lot of time walking. We like to say that we cite the practice on site if only the feet could see. Our AutoCAD vectors were our feet, and they were not in practice, they were on site. So a lot of the design decisions we're taken together with the brigade and the technical staff of the municipality and the whole team of EMF, making drawings on site, on photos. And that was a way of making of the site, of the values of the site, a resource, and to try to capture a specificity, differences, and what is very interesting, otherness, what is different from one place to another. Our touch was very light. We started in April 2014, and in 2 weeks' time, we got already some things managed. And you can see the evolution of these sites is amazing through the seasons and also through the years. And these are the real actors, the gardeners of the metropolis, the brigade. And as I was mentioning before, this is the software. If you buy a mobile, it's not the mobile itself, it's the updates of you making the mobile that you have. And the landscape brigade, which is depicted in these photos, with the knowledge we have learned together, they became co-designers, managers, but also disseminating agents. So they are like viruses that their knowledge, they apply it to other places, not only to those places where we did the pilot projects. What is the logic within the change of management that we are proposing, the evolutionary management? It's ecological succession. We are designing with ecological succession. In this graphic, you see clearly how a low meadow turns into a high meadow and then into shrubs and then finally into woods, and how this happens, that it welcomes different fauna and flora and also social uses. But then also it means different regimes of care, intensity of cuttings, or negligent intensity of care or neglect. So here it's more neglect, here it's more care in terms of hours spending. But also this, if we now focus on the high meadow, which is our speciality because it's where we spend most of the time, that affects totally the cycle of ladybirds and other insects. So by spatially changing where we are managing, we are making a much richer mosaic. So this is a photography, and then it's a hand draw on top of it, and it shows how we spatially design where we would have lower meadow, higher meadow, forest, and the intensity of management and also of inversion that goes along with it. That's clearly an example of an area that is changing and evolving. Very important of this project is that it is a very low cost, low tech project. And that's one of its strengths. It's because it has the will to be a green infrastructure all over the city. So a very big project. So it has to be very cheap. Otherwise, it's just not affordable. What you can see is really the mosaic of areas of forest, areas of passage and staying of people where the meadows are cut short, and areas with grassland and shrubs. So it really shows how this mosaic is getting richer through the management. Now, to show a bit how we went about it, this is us walking and starting the project on the riverside. And sometimes it's really very important to note and take notions about the project and how you capture what is existing there in order to take decisions. So these are the existing conditions around this river and areas where we would like to cut new openings and having clear national views between both sides of the river. And then we had also some areas we proposed to convert in meadows. Those are some criteria about how to create openings, leave areas as natural reserve without touching on areas where the cuttings would be very close. And this is just a bit how it goes about it, where we propose cleanings, where we propose areas which would be more close, the making of the management, and how gradually over the years, it's a very slow project, these openings are being made and the river has been opened. After 2 years of practicing, what the technical service did is they kind of put together and condense into a scheme, if-then scheme, what would sort out about 70% of the situations. And this would be a criteria that the brigade could apply without any other design. And we divided between what we do in flat areas, what we do in embankment areas, and what we do when we find heritage. And heritage would have different criteria, whether it's natural heritage or cultural heritage, and how we, for instance, tend to cut and leave open flat areas because people can use them and be more wild. So it is interesting because, in fact, what this does is that that gives autonomy to the brigade to change. And after all, we change completely the perception of the space by very locally intervening in certain space with a lot of care and trying to make notations on the site. It's another peculiarity of this project This project is not hardware, it's not investment, it's about people working there every third 6 months. So it's evolutive over time. This series of drawings, what they show is the existing area before intervention. So with a very big high meadows where we would not come in. What if then system of working with the brigade? So you can already open flat areas, leave the embankments as close, put into value heritage elements. Then if you go into the what we call a differentiated management or very local and specific, you can then even recover areas of high meadow, opening a narrow path, gaining other diversity, and of course, discovering viewpoints. And all this can be done only with the brigade, without investment. Then a final stage is where you need at least a bit of invention. It's where you are paying for elements of furniture, you are trying to improve the pavements of the path or opening new path. That's when you finally need inversion. The rest of it, it's done with the know-how that we build together with the brigade. There are some images showing how those spaces are. Always a balance between natural neglected areas that nature is working. It's our ally in these areas. And only finally, this could be, as in architecture would be an as-built plan. This is as-managed plan, but we do that when after 2 years maybe of having been working on site where we really think this is reaching a stage of. And this is a rather conventional drawing with views we would like to keep open, areas where we would like people to see between each other, low meadows, high meadow path. So these are some on-site photos of the work. And you can always see this tension or this equilibrium between the areas that left to work for nature and the areas where there is more put into place, like with sitting areas and so. And this is the as-managed plan, which would be the equivalent as-built plan for architecture, and depicting the path, the views, probable sitting areas where we would like to improve the path. And it's only done after 2 years of already working on site. So it's an open process. We only do the plan where we are quite confident about what would be the result. Another aspect that we have been working over the last 10 years is what could be the aesthetic, the system of values that people will find in those spaces, because those spaces are not urban parks, but they are not nature, wild nature either. So we are trying to find a kind of a vocabulary that can pass a sense of care about the place, but at the same time allowed for a big biodiversity. And we are using here the description that Johann Nassauer says when she talks about messy ecosystems with orderly frames. And what she comes to say is that we humans need to perceive some human intention in order to understand that there is care behind. So when we know that in our Mediterranean civilization, forests and natural areas are not always perceived as wonderful places, are also places of danger, of risk. So these little marks, this vocabulary that is done with very defined geometry helps to pass that this is not a neglected space, but is a space that it has a different nature of care. In this idea and this notion of giving value to the sites, when we finally get a bit of money, we try to put these elements that we call confetti. And the confetti, it's our way to celebrate moments of a special beauty. So the confetti, we could say, is ad hoc design artifacts, always specific for a place, that what they want to do is to create a disruptive experiential moment. We want to make you stop and to look with the different eyes that you were doing before. So some images showing the process of making of some of them always has confetti. It's not very expensive. We don't have much money. Those interventions are very light foot. This, for instance, is a lens to look for fossils or chairs, or always very subtle. And most of these confetti celebrations of the landscape, what is important is the view, like in this photo, and the object that you are providing or the cutting you are doing, it's in order to make people realize this moment. Sometimes they are helping to access a different area, or celebrating, as here, a very beautiful piece of forest with Athermon speculanum and these chairs that invite you to look at the canopy, or very simple benches that they discover. So the thing about these confetti elements that they are always designed for a peculiar condition, tailor-made. So sometimes we are also using painting, as in this case on a river project, and talking about the distance from the river mouth to where you are. Or sometimes are very rustic and very cheap, and it's just about laying down trunks that we found outside. Altogether has made that this edge of the city that was neglected and that was a backyard and perceived sometimes as dangerous, has now been, we could say, the Homo brutus, which was the humus that was dropping rubbish into the landscape, is now really much more appreciating those. And we can have that Homo sapiens is recolonizing these landscapes in a number of ways. And then maybe it's the moment to talk about what is the ambition of this project, not as the tools we make specific to make it happen, but what is the territorial scope of it. So what you see here on the left, it's the public spaces on Girona that you can, the green spaces, you can step on them. And the ambition is to multiply by 8 the surface, which is managed in this natural condition, and reach up to 600 hectares. So after 3 years of already doing pilot projects, we were commissioned by the municipality. We could say the master plan, but we don't like to say master plan. We call it the action plan that puts together all these areas around the city. And we did quite a lot of work with the citizens, visiting each, say, mountain of the city or river, together with the representative of the associations. And we tried to something that we call the walking workshops, gain knowledge from them about what are their visions, what are their ambitions, also explain our notion of what we could do in their landscape. So these are just examples of one of the areas that was put. There were 13 loops altogether. And we also asked the neighbors what there would be their 4 favorite postcards of their nearby landscape. And this exercise, very naive in a way, help us to find ethnological heritage and landscape areas that we would maybe not have seen. Another not so positive part of this project is that, yes, we did manage to make pilot projects. Yes, we have found a low-tech, low-cost way of intervening, but we have never been capable to raise money to do the later stages of projects so in a moment of certain desperation, we could say, we were given the opportunity to make an exhibition in Las Bernaldas Sala, and we make the effort of make 12 posters to explain 12 different ways to look at the shore from different perspectives. I'm just going to show a few of them. For instance, how this shore or edge project is distributed around the 21 neighborhoods of the city. So it will never happen that this project will create gentrification, because in fact it's distributed and equitable. How this area of management and project, it's actually addressing 2 main topics of the risk in the city of Girona, which is forest fires and also flooding. Quite a lot of measures that you can do against those 2 major catastrophes are to be done outside the city, not inside the city. So in this map, we were trying to show where we would be clever to make land management in order to prevent such things, or how the healthy attitude of citizens to go walking and discover nature around their town could improve their quality of life. So, and unlike this, we did many others. This is the putting together of the 15 postcards that the citizens recommend us about nearby areas of their peripheral neighborhoods. So this is the 50 new postcards that you don't know about Girona, because you may know those of your neighborhood, but you don't know those of the other neighbors. And in this attempt to gaining, say, followers, we had tried to attract minorities. And one way we did it is in order interacting with art festivals. Some art festivals that they have been invited, or they have come to us to talk about how art could be placed in these nearby locations. One of them, and the most long-standing story, is with Art and Gavarras, which is a natural park nearby, that now for the 6 editions, they have been placing land art interventions around nearby areas. Also, Milestone, which is an urban art festival, did some paintings in specific areas that they were really degraded. So in a way, what we show in this diagram is how we try to coordinate the rain, the sun, the growth of vegetation, and how we cut it and manage it, but also with this explosion of cultural events that happen in the city, Like the flower festival, it's an opportunity to take people to walk outside, and maybe we can get some money to put some furniture. Or there is a festival where they make music and so on. So that's a very happy moment, where a place where nobody would have gone 5 years ago, now it was a secret concert that you would go there and you wouldn't know who would be playing. And as you see in the image, it's a wonderful location. So I'm now starting to finish, and with less iconic things, but very important. This is a project that has been going for 4 years through very light ways of contracts, very small projects. Initially was for free. Then after a year, when they saw they like it, they start commissioning little tiny projects. And only in the last 2 years, there was a very innovative competition at the municipality of Girona, where there would be 18 different actions that would be related to the land management, evolutionary management, governance, planning and funding, communication and dissemination, and research and innovation. So the 18 actions that would take place over a period of 4 times. And then this was a competition that we fortunately won. And also this is a new way of practicing for us landscape architects, is that we have a long-standing relation with the project. It's not a project that we have to do it in 6 months or 8 months, deliver, build it and go. It is a long-standing relation, and that activates all sorts of different ways of acting. That's also showing there are up to 4 different companies together with the civil servants. The brigade is the civil servants, they work for the municipality, but there are 4 other companies that they are managing areas around the city. So what we are doing now in order to upscale the project is we are getting in contact with all these other companies and trying to communicate the know-how that we rise together with the people of the brigade. And that's one of the things that we are. So this diagram here, it shows our proposal to the municipality about how this is the technical part, and these are the people on field, the brigades. These are the public and the private, and how we could organize in a different way so that, in fact, these people in black, which are the people working in the municipality, the brigade, become the pioneers, we call them. So we ask them every year to go to a different place, change the way of management, improve to another more evolutionary system. And once it's kind of fixed, then they pass it to the private company who is working in much lower rates. So in a way, we are empowering the public servants and making sure that the knowledge stays in-house, so that this know-how, it will never go because a private company has lost the competition. So this system, it is what we trust will allow us to gain more surfaces of management and increase in the city. So what you see here to the right, it's a fake map. We did this map, so it's not the official map, but we are now working for trying to get it done. And this map, it has a double objective. It's first to change the perception of the city has of itself and integrating the nature around has in cities nature. So, you know, in Spain and Catalonia, we call las eixamples, los ensanches, the developments of the city are normally always edifying areas of rural value or nature. Here where we say we're going to make bigger the city, but not with buildings, but with green areas. So that's the goal. And what we are proposing in the coming year is to meet again with the different neighborhoods and to make sure that there is no path, no mountain, no field, that it has no name. So we are trying to, this area that I showed it in a previous image, it has no names, it's completely disregarded. It gets the same value as it gets inside the city. So this is a project that is coming on the, and this is a drawing nobody ever understands. It's to explain that this project has a lot of different constellations. The green ones related to management, the orange one related to arts and engaging people, the blue one related to planning. And that's a bit what we think what is the interesting part of doing this kind of long-standing relation with the project.